Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
I thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All the momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Tuesday, January 16th, 2024. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Louisiana's new proposed congressional map will create a second majority black district. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund is declaring victory, yet Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who is from Louisiana, is doing all he can to stop black people from having another district. Our economy is booming, but some folks aren't really excited about the growth. We'll break down why Wall Street isn't feeling this great economy. Donald Trump was the winner of the Iowa Caucus, but one of the most talked about things from last night's vote was how the ballots were collected. In paper bags? Popcorn bowls? Really? Moms for Liberty failed to completely overtake South Carolina school boards, so they are creating a school, a charter school with tax dollars. A former California deputy will spend 30 days behind bars for killing an unarmed black man. And Nimarata Nikki Haley, she actually said America has never been racist. And then seconds later said, I faced racism as a kid. We'll walk through how she literally is one of the dumbest, most crass politicians in America. And also, my poor Dallas Cowboy fans, especially those who work for me, are really bummed because their team lost. I'm gonna share some of my favorite memes and videos, especially for Henry Peterson, Deshaun Smith, and Antoine Downs. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Black folks in Louisiana move one step closer to getting a second majority black congressional district. The proposed map, favored by Governor Jeff Landry, who's a Republican, will create a second majority black congressional district by taking in Shreveport and Alexandria and joining much of Baton Rouge to form a new 6th congressional district. Now, Republican Congressman Garrett Graves is at risk of being ousted from his position. Now, in November, a federal appeals court upheld federal judge Shelley Dick's earlier ruling requiring Louisiana's congressional map be redrawn to include a second majority black district. There are 6 in the state. Now, keep in mind, the federal judges ruled in early 2022 to create the district. Republicans then challenged that. The Supreme Court said, hold up, there's not enough time to redraw the districts. That actually was a lie. So then we went to 2023. And the Supreme Court, after they ruled in the Alabama case, said Louisiana has to create a new district because they violate the rights of African Americans as a result of the Voting Rights Act. Republicans then tried to pass new maps and ignored the Supreme Court. And they were like, nah, not gonna happen. Then they tried to go to back to the very conservative 5th Circuit to try to get them to try to retry the case again. No, didn't happen. Now, when Landry was elected governor, he was like, listen, we got to deal with these new maps. So he called for a special session of the legislature. And the passage requires majority votes in the House and Senate. But guess who's not happy? That is Mike Johnson, who represents Louisiana's 4th district. Why is Mike not happy? Well, he's the Speaker of the House. He posted this on Twitter. We've just seen and are very concerned with the proposed congressional map presented in the Louisiana legislature. It remains my position that the existing map is constitutional and that the legal challenge to it should be tried on merits so the state has adequate opportunity to defend its merits. Should the state not prevail at trial, there are multiple other map options that are legally compliant. No, go back to the tweet, please. That are legally compliant and do not require the unnecessary surrender of a Republican seat in Congress. Now, that's what he cares about. Mike Johnson does not care about black voters in Louisiana. Mike Johnson does not care that multiple federal courts have ruled that Louisiana has violated the constitutional rights of African Americans. He is desperate to protect the Republican seat. Right now, they have a very narrow majority in the House. They want to control the House next year. And we have a black district in Alabama. Now you have a black district in Louisiana. You've got potential for districts in Georgia and Florida. So they're like, throw in what's going to happen in New York. They're like, we might be losing the House. But let me say it again. Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, is saying to black people in Louisiana, I don't give a damn about you. I want white Republicans, and I do not want to see an African American, a second one from Louisiana. That's what he's saying. My panel, Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for environmental justice with the EPA, joining us from D.C., Dr. Larry Walker, assistant professor, University of Central Florida, Johanna LeBlanc, partner with the Adomi Advisor Group, LOC. Glad to have all three of you here. What we're dealing with here, Mustafa, is obviously it's pure crass politics. Alabama Republicans tried it. They kept getting smacked down by the federal judges. They had to relent. Okay, fine, we got to do the district. Louisiana wants 20 bites at the apple. I mean, Johnson is saying, oh, let's go to trial. Dude, we've already been to trial multiple times. They've been to mediation. This thing went all the way to the Supreme Court. Suck it up, Mike. You lost.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Johnson doesn't care about the rule of law. He definitely doesn't care about, black folks, their vote being honored in this process. So he's very clear. This is a strategic move. Once again, they're trying to run out the clock so that they can continue to hold on to power. And that's really what this is about, is power and politics. And they'll do anything that they can do to be able to hold on to that power and to continue to manipulate the political system. So we just have to be very clear about what's happening in this moment. This is another reason why we continue to try and help people to understand why your vote is so incredibly important and why you have to show up, both on the state level and the federal level, county and local, and utilize to make sure that you were actually building, the infrastructure for black politics. And what I mean by that is that we're getting the individuals elected, and then we continue to expand out from there.
Larry, I think what is most basic and fundamental here, Mike Johnson is saying, I don't represent you black people in Louisiana. He's saying, oh, you Democrats in Louisiana, I don't represent you. I only represent Republicans, mainly white Republicans.
The message is quite clear from Congressman, Speaker Johnson. And, it's interesting, Roland, because this really highlights why the Voting Rights Act is so important and why it's been under attack for the last several years by Republicans. I think also them creating, this new, black congressional district, Louisiana, is important when it comes to also black political power. We have to acknowledge the Congressional Black Caucus has 60 members, and I'm a former CBC staffer. This is the highest they've ever had in terms of CBC numbers. So we have a chance in the next election to add to that number. This is about black political power. And also what we've seen in terms of the white response to President Obama, 2008, Vice President Harris, and this idea among white Republicans that they've lost America and it's not theirs anymore. So as the country has become more diverse, we continue to see this pushback on voting rights. And also, Roland, as you talked about a lot on your show, gerrymandering, right? So they've rigged the system, and when on some occasions they lose, they rightfully lose, then they want to complain about, the judicial system, in which, like I said, Brother Mustafa said, they're always reminding us about the rule of law. Well, you being the rule of law, Speaker Johnson, and you represent, like as you said, Roland, as a speaker, you're representing, everyone in the House, and certainly as a congressman from the state of Louisiana, you also very aware of the issue of gerrymandering and racism in Louisiana that continues to this day. It also has one of the highest incarceration rates in the country and the world as it relates to black folks. So I think as Speaker Johnson, his statement is problematic and also highlights why Republicans don't want to. They're fighting every tooth and nail at all these black congressional districts throughout the South.
Johanna, Janae Nelson, who runs the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, she tweeted this out. She says, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson is attempting to block a bipartisan agreement to draw a fair map that doesn't discriminate against black voters in Louisiana. He's advocating for continued waste of taxpayer dollars to defend a map the Fifth Circuit said likely violates the Voting Rights Act. The thing that's crazy here is, again, you have a Republican governor who is conceding we lost. In fact, the same Republican governor was the Attorney General of Louisiana who was fighting the congressional district. So this man's going, look, we lost. We got to go ahead and create the district. Mike Johnson's like, no. Let's just keep fighting. It's sort of like the game is over. The clock says 0, 0, 0, and you got, let's just run a few more plays. Say, dog, the clock is run out. Game over. You lost.
Well, Roland, as my co-panelist articulated, this is a ploy by the Republican Party, unfortunately, and in particular, Mr. Johnson, Speaker of the House, to ensure that there isn't additional representation within the Congressional Black Caucus. And similar to my co-panelist, I am a former senior CBC staffer, and there is a great need for additional representation, especially in today's climate where we are dealing with dire issues around environmental injustice, the housing crisis, and incarceration, and an economy that the administration.
All right, looks like we lost Johanna's signal there, so we'll try to get her back. Folks, this is real simple, and I've made these things perfectly clear numerous times. Republicans do not give a damn about black people. The courts have said that black voters are being disenfranchised in Louisiana. Black people make up 30+% of the state of Louisiana, and there is one African American in Congress, and that's Troy Carter, and that's the seat out of New Orleans. And so what they are saying is, we ain't get up to the second one. The exact same thing that white Republicans were saying in Alabama. And what the white Republicans in Alabama did and what the white Republicans in Louisiana did was the exact same thing that racist white Southern Democrats did in stopping black advancement during Jim Crow and the Black Freedom Movement. So yesterday's white Southern Dixiecrat is today's white Southern Republican. There is no difference. It is time for that second black congressional district, and that means more power for African Americans. Going to a break, we'll be right back. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. We're going to talk about Nikki Haley. She said America has never been racist. Which America are you talking about? South America? Not this one. We're going to break it down. Back in a moment.
hatred on the streets. A horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, Dave.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Next, on the Black Table with me, Dr. Greg Carr, author Dr. Maribel Mori, on her astounding and enlightening new book, White Philanthropy, a history we're betting you've never heard before. Don't miss an eye-opening episode of the Black Table, only on Black Star Network.
What's up? It's Sammy Roman.
Hey, it's John Murray, the executive producer of the new Sherry Shepherd Talk Show.
It's me, Sherry Shepherd, and you know what you're watching, Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, the orange man who has been indicted faces 91 counts in 4 different trials, won the Iowa Caucus. Ron DeSantis came in second. Nikki Haley came in third. I don't really give a damn. So here's what's interesting. So Republicans spend a lot of their time complaining about voting and voter fraud. Well, that's interesting because last night, a video that went viral shows people literally voting, writing on sheets of paper and just dropping them in paper bags. And then also they were using, there was another photo or video showing using popcorn bowls as a way to collect the ballots. That's interesting because these people, look at this, boy, that's a lot of voter protection right there. And just dropping names in paper bags, Larry. They love talking about protecting the integrity of the ballot. I mean, they said this is worse than the church passing around the plate doing collection. At least it's a nice plate.
I know, at least it's gold, right? And got that little velvet in the center where you pass that plate around in the black church, right? So, Roland, I want to call on the state attorney general to investigate this because what I see on video is clearly not consistent with, I'm assuming, voter laws in the state of Iowa. So, like I said, I would call for an complete investigation.
I mean, Larry, check this one out. They literally are pulling out ballots written on sheets of paper out of popcorn bowls.
This is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And, you know, it's interesting because when I look around, I don't see any people look like me. So I guess it's not voter fraud. I guess that's how that works. But I would certainly, like I said, I'm assuming the state attorney general would get right on that in terms of the determining that. Because I didn't see any IDs or anyone reviewing any IDs or any other protocols in place to make sure we protect the integrity of our elections. So maybe perhaps the caucuses yesterday, based on what I'm seeing, are invalid. Maybe they should start from ground zero. I guess that's how that works.
And not only that, Johanna, what's interesting is I saw one tweet when you talk about, we can't have electioneering when it comes to, but people are voting. There was a woman last night who was a spokesman for the Trump folks in one of the caucuses who stood up and said that fool won 3 Nobel Peace Prizes. 3.
Well, Roland, I think there are some major concerns here for the Democratic Party if the Democratic wish to maintain the White House. The reality is that, first, this is the same president that said the 2020 election was stolen from him because there were, folks were able to vote from home because of the pandemic. And he indicated there were severe voting irregularities, right? And then you're watching what happened in Ohio. People literally voting, putting their votes in a basket, in paper bags.
No,
right?
no, wasn't Ohio, that was Iowa.
I'm sorry, Iowa. I'm sorry. Literally putting them in paper bags, right? So you have to ask yourself, where is the consistency? If we're going to be consistent about voting rights and preserving one's right to vote and making sure that the integrity of the process remains intact, we need to be consistent all across the board. But then again, this is the same administration, this is the same former president that we know who has not been consistent when it comes to some of these issues. So we should not be too surprised. But at the end of the day, he did win, and I think that it speaks volume to his base and his ability to articulate his stance, and that he has a strong base, the MAGA base, right? They're still willing to vote for him in spite of the numerous indictments. In fact, this morning he had to go to court after the winning the caucus, right? He had to go to court and appear on a sexual harassment case. That is the reality. So I think that the Democratic Party, this is an opportunity for them to realize that, again, this man has supporters, and they are energized, and they want him back in the White House. So for the Democratic Party, we need to have more inspiring candidates and people who are going to champion on behalf of the Democratic Party. And we want to hear stories. We want to hear more about what has the administration done, right? Because I know Biden administration has the Binomics, which I think one of the greatest achievements of President Biden is the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And the administration needs to leverage on that, because Bidenomics, the average American doesn't know what that is. We need to come strong, right? And talk about what has happened and how.
Well, of course. I mean, first of all, let's be perfectly clear. Okay, Iowa's last night. Democrats, Mustafa, vote South Carolina beginning February 3rd. The reality is we're now in election season. You see the Biden campaign staffing up. You've seen John Kerry lead the administration, go to the re-election campaign. Mitch Landrieu go to the re-election campaign as well. You've seen Quentin Fulks, deputy campaign manager, making the rounds on television. And so those things are happening. And so the reality is, as we move down this path, the reality is Donald Trump is likely going to be the nominee. And so it's going to be a stark choice between Biden and Trump. You also are seeing the economic numbers consistently showing how well the economy is doing. And so I think you're going to see that narrative being told over and over again, Mustafa.
Yeah, I mean, it is about economics. So the two things that folks out there in Iowa said were important to them were, one was immigration, the other one was economics. We know that the Biden administration has a strong record to stand in relationship to economics. But getting back also, Roland, to what you had asked earlier, we see that integrity, especially in relationship to voter integrity, only seems to be something that is necessary when it ends up being in black and brown locations. If we were passing around, whether it's a brown paper bag, and I think my brother Larry there was about to say that, if you're on the lighter side of that brown paper bag, then you get certain things that are, there's a certain amount of trust that is often given. And we've seen those dynamics play out before. So, in this moment, we understand the dynamics that are going on, that white folks are supposed to be trusted when it comes to voting, that they never have any voter irregularities, and that they are always living up to the integrity that is supposed to be a part of our democratic system. And often when we take a look at who actually has been in violation of voter laws, who's been in violation of voter integrity, it has actually been Republicans. It has actually been white brothers and sisters. So those are just the facts that are out there, even though we are the ones that often are put on the media if we make a mistake in that area.
Well, when it comes to your point, though, the reality is when you look at a lot of the cases, you're absolutely right. It has been GOP voter fraud. In fact, you had a man in Florida who was charged with voter fraud, and he tried to say, "Oh, it was I'm blaming the DeSantis and the Trump folks." You had, of course, voter fraud in North Carolina. We've seen voter fraud in other states, and numerous times it was Republicans who were involved. Yet in Texas, they still 5 years later are trying to go after this sister who voted, and she wasn't aware that she could not vote, and she filed a provisional ballot, yet they still are trying to go after her. Folks at Project Lincoln dropped an interesting ad that I saw, and I was like, yo, man, that ad was absolutely fire. Check this out. I want to get your thoughts.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a man to test the will and goodness of a free people. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who failed in everything but theft and broken promises to live in a golden palace and convince the poor he serves their needs. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a wicked man to lead the common folk with hatred and fear. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a corrupt man who is above the law and immune from justice. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who will use violence to seize power. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man whose followers will call black white, call evil good, and call criminals hostages. So God made a dictator. God said, I need his political party to obey without question, and the press fear his wrath. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a cruel man who uses his power and position to punish and harm his opposition. So God made a dictator. God said, I need a man who breaks the faith of even his most godly followers and leads them to idolatry. Place him above me. So God made a dictator. And then God said, I sent this man to test you, and until you cast him down, you have failed. So God made a dictator.
Mustafa, that's a damn good ad.
It is a very powerful ad, and it's all true. But, here the reality of the situation is that, the vast majority of folks who, support Donald Trump, no matter what he does, no matter what he says, is not going to make, any difference to them. That is an ad for those folks who label themselves as independents and say they haven't made a choice yet.
Right.
That is an ad also for those folks who say, I'm not sure why I should vote. Hopefully people will watch it and make an informed choice.
And here's the thing, you're right. And what people don't understand, we're talking about margins, Larry. We're talking about in some places where people kind of like, well, I'm not sure. The Republican Accountability Project, they dropped this ad.
It didn't matter how many laws and norms he broke. He thought it didn't matter how many lies he told the American people. And it seemed like he could get away with anything. And many of us even started saying,
Nothing matters.
Nothing matters.
Nothing matters.
Nothing matters.
Nothing matters.
Nothing matters anymore. You can flout the law.
But this wasn't true. Because in America, the rule of law still matters. And that's why Donald Trump has been charged with 91 felonies in 4 separate cases for attempting to steal an election, falsifying business records, and mishandling classified information. We've seen what happens when people start believing nothing matters. That's why it doesn't matter that Donald Trump was president of the United States. It doesn't matter that he is currently running for the presidency. This is America. No one is above the law. That's why it matters that Donald Trump faces consequences for his actions. When Donald Trump was president, he thought it didn't matter how many laws and norms he broke. He thought it didn't matter how many...
It's a great ad, Roland, but, it's interesting, in looking at these ads and obviously highlighting what we all know is, well, not all of us, some people don't believe it. All these, illegal challenges, it really, for me, highlights as a researcher why white supremacy is a problem in the United States. Because if you switch out Barack Obama with Donald Trump, we wouldn't be here. And I think ads like this are really important, particularly this year as we move closer to November. But it highlights for those, like you said, Roland, those individuals who are at the margins who said they're undecided, is you really comes down to this election November is a matter of whether we're continue to be a democracy, a struggling democracy at that, but we becomes a country that 2024 is our last actual election. And Donald Trump has made it very clear from day one he's going to be a dictator. And he's going to start trying to throw people out of the country. Obviously, the courts could obviously play an important role. But the bottom line is we have to be really clear about what's at stake in November, and that's our democracy. And both these ads highlight that. He's more than likely going to trial at least one or two of these particular cases, hopefully, and could likely be a felon. But in the meantime, we have to continue to make sure that we see more ads like that, and that the Biden-Harris administration continue to send their folks out on television, and they make sure they talk to black and brown people about why Bidenomics is important.
Johanna, there are some people, again, what they often see is they say, well, these things don't matter. They say, okay, fine, you're playing to the crowd on social media, and not everyone is on social media. But the goal is to also get these into the news cycle. The folks at Vote Vets have also done that, and here is something that they put together recently.
Make Mark Swalwell, get this over with. It's time to do it. And we'll see how brave the rest of them. You can follow either Swalwell or Nadler before the election. They need to get the message.
The Vote Vets logo come up at the end. It's ready to switch.
Stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody.
I asked you a yes or no question. Could a president who ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival who was not impeached, would he be subject to criminal prosecution?
If he were impeached and convicted first.
So your answer is no.
Do you agree with your lawyers what they said on Tuesday that you should not be prosecuted or could not be prosecuted if you ordered SEAL Team 6 to kill a political opponent?
Well, you're talking about a totally different case, the immunity. I say this, on immunity, very simple. If a president of the United States does not have immunity, he'll be totally ineffective because he won't be able to do anything, because it will mean he'll be prosecuted, strongly prosecuted.
What's crazy here, Johanna, is that what he had to say. But Vote Vets, the reason they're doing it, because they are targeting veterans.
You know, and I think that's a great call. And as my co-panelist Larry indicated, the reality is that regardless of the types of ads that are put out there regarding some of the atrocious acts committed, by the perceived atrocious acts committed by the former president, his base will always vote for him, and they will make excuses. So I think that those ads should be targeting other constituencies, like the veterans, right, who may not have a position yet, who may not know which way they're going to go. And also, I would call upon some of these organizations to also make sure those ads are shared through WhatsApp. And I think that the immigrant community, even those who are legalized and who are able to vote in this country, they rely heavily on WhatsApp for news, and news go very far. So start using some of these platforms beyond your original, your traditional channels, like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and so on, so that the message could really get out in terms of who we're really dealing with and exactly what's at stake. And beyond, again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, beyond the different indictments and what former President Trump has done, there has to be a plan on what the Democratic Party has done, what the Democratic Party continues to do, and we have to be able to inspire people to go out and vote. People want to be inspired, right? People want to feel that they're connected to the party before they go out and vote, because there's a lot at stake right now in 2024.
Folks, hold on 1 second. We come back. We're going to talk about this economy and, again, how folks are responding and what needs to happen. Be sure to support us in what we do, folks, here. You can join our Bring the Funk fan club And that is, of course, our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each, which comes out to $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. You can send your check and money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 20037-0196. Cash App, $ RM Unfiltered, PayPal or Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. When you get a copy of my book, you are supporting this show as well. And so you can get White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at Ben Bella Books, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, IndieBound, Bookshop, Chapters, Books A Billion, Target. You can also get the audio version on Audible. Also, folks, be sure to download the Black Start Network app, where you can always get all of our content, and you can, of course, get your notifications on your Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV.